Hello students, myself Indu Yadav from Samrat Prithviraj Chauhan Government College Ajmer, and I'm going to start with a topic, fish migration. This topic is covered in semester 4 and the paper in which it is included is paper 18, unit 3rd, and the topic number is 4. In this topic, I have already covered bird migration, and now I am going to do fish migration. Migration in fish is a mysterious event of nature which has not yet been solved completely. This phenomenon is characterized by regular periodic movements like homing. According to Cohen in 1970, about 8,000 freshwater species, 12,000 marine, and 120 diadromous species moving between freshwater and seawater show regular migration. Approximately 70% of total migrants are found in tropical waters. Fish migration has been known since very early times, but its knowledge was restricted to a few fishermen. In recent times, modern equipments have helped in tracing the migratory pathways, yet it is not as commonly observed as bird migration. Nearly all fish move in shoals. Groups of fish with similar size and biological conditions, also known as schools, generally with no leader. Shoals have a definite shape which is hydrodynamically suited for movement. Simple movements are different from migration. Definition of migration. The term migration has been derived from a Latin word and it means traveling. It has been defined in various ways by different workers. Thomson in 1942 has defined migration as a shift in what may be called the center of gravity of the population. Nikolsky in 1963 regards migration as an adaptation towards increasing the abundance of a species. It can also be defined as a periodic and directed travel due to changes in environmental conditions. Migration differs from dispersal, local movements, and seasonal movements as migrants always return to the region from which they had migrated. Now the meaning of term homing. Homing is a complex, instinctively and physiologically dictated behavior of migratory fish which compels the fish to return to its original locality after undertaking migratory journeys. This instinct is seen most prominently in the salmon. Fish inhabiting smaller water bodies such as lakes, ponds, and pools also have this remarkable instinct, and if displaced, they can return to their home territories. Jerking in 1959 has defined homing as the return to a place formerly occupied instead of going to other equally probable new places. Now I will try to explain you the types of migratory fish. According to Myers in 1949, migratory fish can be classified into three main categories. First, diadromous fish. Second, potamodromous fish. Third, oceanodromous fish. Now let's take them one by one. First is diadromous fish. It again in turn is divided into three types of fishes: anadromous fish, catadromous fish, and amphidromous fish. Now we'll come to know what are these when we'll know what is a diadromous fish. These fish migrate between freshwater and seawater. These can further be subdivided into three types. First is anadromous. These fish migrate from sea to freshwater for breeding, means for spawning purpose. Example: salmon, striped bass, shad, lampreys, and hilsa. And I will show you the figures of these fishes in the next slide. Potamodromous fish, the second type of diadromous fish is catadromous fish. These fish migrate from freshwater to the sea, chiefly for spawning, example European eel and American eel. And the third type, the amphidromous fish. These fish migrate from seawater to freshwater and vice versa, but not for breeding. This may be for food, etc. This movement may occur regularly at some definite stage of their life cycle. Example, gobies undertake migration for food. Some fish, however, do not show any significant movement from oceans to freshwater. These may move only up to estuaries. In such cases, migratory changes are not too marked. These are called semi-migratory fish, example roaches and whitefishes. The second category is of the potamodromous fish. Now, before I come to potamodromous fish, let me show you the diagrams of the diadromous fishes. Now, here is the diagram, and it is in three parts. Figure 1 is the figure of anadromous fishes, and second is the catadromous fishes, and third is the amphidromous fishes. And anadromous, you can see come the salmon, the bass, the shad, the hilsa and the lamprey. And in catadromous, you can see two, European eel and the American eel. And the amphidromous fish are depicted by gobies. So these were the types of fishes, types of migratory fishes. Now the second category, the potamodromous fish. These fish live and migrate only within freshwater, example carps and trouts. And again, I will show you the diagram after this slide, because the diagrams are on the next slide. And the third type of fishes are the oceanodromous fishes. These fish which live and migrate only within the sea are called oceanodromous fish, example Atlantic herring, sardines, mackerel and tuna. These fish generally migrate to colder water regions for the purpose of spawning and then return to their parent area. In some migratory species like salmon, the young ones do not show migration, whereas in others like the shad, both adults and the young ones show migration. Now here is the slide showing the second and third category of fishes, migratory fishes. The second category is of the potamodromous fishes, and the examples are carp and trout. And the third category is of the oceanodromous fishes, and these the oceanodromous fishes are herring, mackerel and sardine. The migratory movements of two types along with the water currents called denatant or against the water current called contranatant. With the migratory movements are of two types. First, along with the water currents, and this is called the denatant. And if the movement is against the water current, it is called as the constranatant. Some species may partly resort to both means. Movement in fish can be caused by the following. You may say the drift. When the fish are carried passively by the water currents, this type of movement is most commonly employed by larvae and rarely by adults. And you must be understanding why we are doing the movement in the fishes, because migration basically is a kind of movement of the fish from one environment to the other. And this movement, how does it happen, is also very important. One we've already done, the fish, if it will drift along the movement along with the movement of the water. So this is one kind of movement. And then the second type is random locomotory movement. This may lead to a haphazard or random divergence of the species, or it may lead to aggregation of the species, especially if there are differences in environmental fields such as light, temperature, etc. The third type of movement is orientated locomotory movement, when movement is caused by a particular stimulus leading to migration of the species either towards or away from the source. Speed is an important factor in migrating fish. So, if this is so important, let us do what is the speed of the fish? What is the average speed of a fish? The speed at which different species of fish move during migration is influenced by a number of physiological and environmental factors. Now, what is the maximum speed? The maximum speed at which a fish can move is 10 times its body length per second. So, the formula will become body length into 10 per second. This speed can, however, not be maintained by the fish far more than 1 minute. They have to slow down to regain stamina and may again attain the maximum speed. Then comes the maximum sustainable speed. This speed can be sustained by the fish over long periods of time. It is 3 times body length per second. Means the formula will become body length into 3 upon second. Example, in herring of 25 centimeter size, maximum sustainable speed will be 25 into 3, which is 75 centimeters per second. In a cod of 80 centimeter, the speed will be 80 into 3 is equals to 240 per second, centimeters per second. Spectacular migrants like the salmon, cod and eel breed in one area but grow up and feed in another area. Interestingly, the distance between the feeding and spawning grounds may be over 700 miles, which the fishes cover very efficiently in a definite amount of time. So, this was a preview of the fish migration, in which we had done the types of migratory fishes and the types of movements and the speed of the fish. So, I think this is enough for this lecture. So, I will stop here and we will continue in the next lecture. Thank you.